So, Kyle, it's been a day or two since you've won the Player of the Match award. The team also winning their first test in Asia for over a decade. Has it all sunk in?
I think this morning actually probably did a little bit. Yeah, just firstly on the test win, I think just chatting to a couple of the guys last night and this morning. It's obviously something that's not easy to do. So yeah, I think just for the group, it's really pleasing. Quite a young group, so it's quite nice to sort of I don't want to say overcome that hurdle, but sort of get that sort of box ticked quite early on in our development stage as a team. So from that point of view, it's been quite a nice 24 hours just reflecting on that. And yeah, from a personal point of view, I think probably only after the tour I'll reflect and fully sort of take it in. I think at the moment it's still one more game left and just trying to get yourself ready to go and perform in that game. So yeah, I think that sort of reflection will probably come a bit later on. But yeah, definitely something that I'm proud of and happy that I could have contributed to a win in the sub, which is not too easy to come by.
Sure. I mean, one of the things I guess that made that innings as the century so special was, as everyone knows, the extreme conditions that you were playing in. So I think humidity was probably close to 100%. The temperature was in the 30s. It obviously took a lot out of you. I mean, how do you actually recover from that kind of experience?
Yeah, it was quite a tough experience. I think probably day one wasn't too bad. I didn't really bat much in day one, but I think it wasn't like quite overcast, so it wasn't as bad. But I felt like the morning of day two, it was really, really hot and it made things quite difficult. From a recovery point of view, I think we've just been really good with our sort of pre-planning or pre-game stuff, just making sure we hydrated, whatever. So I think from a recovery point of view, it actually hasn't been too difficult to sort of get back. I think by the next day, I felt pretty much back to normal. But yeah, it definitely was. I think, like I said, on the evening of that day was probably the toughest conditions that I've batted in. Purely just from the fact that everything's so draining, and then to still try and maintain concentration was really, really difficult. So yeah, it's very, very tough.
Absolutely. And I saw a really nice clip on social media. I think it was David Bennigan was talking about your complexion maybe not helping the fact that the conditions were so extreme. So there's obviously quite a nice kind of camaraderie bond between the team.
Yeah. I mean, myself and David went to school together, so we've known each other for quite a few years. He's one of my really good friends. So it was quite nice to have that moment with him for sure. But I think, yeah, this team, especially the environment under our coach Shooks has been great. I think everyone really gets along, and I think you can see it in the way that we're playing. Obviously, you don't get behind the scenes of how we are in a change room, but it's a really nice place to be. And I think a lot of guys enjoy being on tour, enjoy traveling with the group of guys that we have. And I think it's slowly starting to, show in the way we're playing and getting results behind us.
Sure. And then just kind of focusing in on the innings itself, a lot of report has been reported about, the number of sweeps that you were playing, both conventional sweeps and reverse sweeps. But I mean, how did you go about kind of constructing the innings? Was it just a case of playing session by session, taking every sort of, 10 overs at a time?
Yeah, I think with it being, like I said, we've obviously spoken quite a bit about the subcontinent and facing a lot of spinners. I think things can happen quite quickly, or at least it feels like things are happening quickly. So for us, it was just about sort of taking it in small little session by session periods. I think when I was batting with Verryenne and then with Dan Pitt towards the end as well, it was all about just getting to the next 10 overs or getting to the next drinks break. So I think when you do it that way, it sort of makes your goals or whatever a lot more achievable. I think especially in those conditions, if you start thinking in the morning, you start aiming what you're going to be on by lunchtime, whatever, it's such a long period of time. So yeah, I think we just try to break it down, sort of small mini sessions by sessions, get to the drinks break, and that sort of kept us going. 20 runs by 20 runs, that sort of thing. I know it's the classic cliche, but I think especially in these conditions, it's something that we focused a lot on, and I think it sort of helped us just stay calm and stay present under those conditions.
Sure. And as you were saying there, you shared a big partnership with Mulder and Pete as well. But I don't know, was there ever a point, you were getting towards the 90s and, both those guys had gotten out. Was there a point where you're thinking, I'm going to end up being stranded here?
I did think that probably when I was on about 60 already. Yeah, I think obviously Verryenne went out and then I started batting with Dane. But yeah, in those conditions, I'm as much as he's a capable batter and he's had some really good scores, you don't really expect to have a 70-run partnership, whatever it was, with the number 10. So yeah, I think there was a point where I was, like I said, on about 60 odd or whatever, and you're sort of thinking might be able to get another 20 runs or so, and then we're probably going to be in the field bowling. But as soon as we started getting closer and closer, it sort of, wouldn't say I became a bit more nervous, but you start thinking if he gets out now in this over, I could be under the pump a little bit. But to be fair to him, the minute I sort of got to like 70 or 80, he said to me, "Don't worry, I'll stick with you till you get your 100. I'll make sure that I'm around." So yeah, he kept things nice and calm and sort of kept me relaxed, which was quite nice.
Absolutely. And he was true to his word as
It
well.
was.
And yeah, I mean, talk about that moment when you got to the 100. It seemed to be a real moment of release.
Yeah, no, it was. I think it was more just the conditions and everything, because you're so drained. I think emotions sort of take over. But I think, like I said the other day, it's nothing really special behind any of that. It's just more just the fact that I was finally able to contribute to the team, and I think in such trying conditions, I think we were like 90 for 5 when I came in or something like that. So to go on and get 100 from there, being under a lot of pressure, and also feel like in my test career, sort of at the point now where I need to start putting in performances, I think it was just a release of all of those emotions and sort of yeah, bit more relief than anything else.
Absolutely. And I guess kind of looking at the game as a whole, obviously SA winning it pretty comfortably in the end by 7 wickets, but you did have to kind of scrap a little bit to get over the line, particularly on day 3, where the Bangladesh lower order were, particularly with Mehdi Hassan Minhaj, providing quite a good amount of resistance there. Were you not surprised, but did you feel like you were in a real kind of battle at that point, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've played against Mehdi under 19 level, and I think he batted like 4 or 5 against us. And he was really, really good. He's obviously got test hundreds and stuff before. So I think maybe to the outside it might have looked like we were under the pump a little bit, but I think we were very realistic about the pitch and how it had sort of gotten a little bit better over the course of the test, and also understanding that probably for the first 30 overs the ball does quite a bit, and then when it gets softer it becomes a lot easier. So I think all of those factors, we were very aware of that, and we sort of understood that it was going to be quite a toil. I think when we got those 3 wickets in the morning of day 3, I think it was. I think maybe then everyone sort of goes, "Oh well, this is going to be, we're just going to roll them over." But yeah, from a realistic point of view, I think we were fully aware of the challenge and difficulty that was going to be, and I think we we're quite comfortable chasing probably anywhere under 250 on that wicket. So from our side, there was no real panic. And yeah, I think we stayed nice and calm and managed to still restrict him to a relatively easy total to chase.
I'm just wondering if, you lost that 3rd wicket in the chase quite late on, I think. And just wondering if you had your pads at the ready, thinking you might have to go in just to score the winning runs.
I did put my whites on. I didn't quite have my pads on just yet, but I did start getting dressed and then put my whites on, praying that it didn't happen. Yeah, thankfully the boys managed to get it done before I had to go in again. I think at one stage it was looking like we were going to do it quite comfortably. And then 2 wickets at the end, they sort of made sent a bit of panic into the dressing room, but fortunately everything was under control.
Absolutely. And then I guess, just kind of looking at your career, maybe throwing things forward a little bit. So, this was obviously your 2nd 100 in Test match cricket. The last one, I think, was a good sort of couple of years ago now against New Zealand. And I think one of the reasons I was looking, delving into statistics, you obviously haven't played South Africa haven't played an awful lot of Test cricket in the last sort of year or 2. Do you feel that kind of does impact on your game in terms of having those long gaps between sort of red ball cricket?
Yeah, I think I've spoken about it before, but I think it's quite a massive, or it has a massive impact on the team and sort of, especially when it comes to individual performances in terms of like getting momentum and stuff. Fortunately, now we've got quite a few tests coming up over the home summer, so that'll be a lot better. But I think, yeah, it's difficult. I mean, we've had our last test series. I think it ended in August in the West Indies, and I felt like personally, you sort of getting into a bit of form, and then you've got to wait another 2 months till you get your next game. So I think that becomes quite difficult. And I think for the early part of my career, I think that's probably been the most challenging thing. Every time you sort of feel like you're finding your feet and feel like you're sort of getting into a rhythm, you've got to wait another 2 or 3 months till the test, and then it's 2 test matches, and then you've got to wait another 2 or 3 months. So it definitely has, I'd say, a negative impact on consistency and sort of finding your feet. And I think that's probably why it takes maybe a little bit longer for guys to find their feet at this level now, because there's just not that much cricket. But yeah, like I said, fortunately, looks like we've got a good run of games coming up now. So hopefully we'll see a lot more consistency, hopefully from myself and the rest of the team going forward.
Sure. And I mean, just touching on what you said then, is there a way that you manage that challenge of those large gaps in particular?
I think if you've got domestic cricket back on the go at home, it's sort of easy because you can keep playing and stuff like that. And I went to lots in between the West Indies and this series, which was good. But I think to be brutally honest, the level of Test cricket is just so much higher than that. So it's still quite difficult to sort of get yourself to that level. You're still playing red ball cricket and you're still sort of getting that game time and stuff. But I think anyone that's played Test cricket will tell you that the intensity and the level that you need to be at is of such a high level that unless you're actually playing Test cricket, I think it's really, really difficult to sort of maintain that. So it is a challenge, but it's something that everyone's faced with, and we've got to find a way.
Sure. And then I guess in terms of sort of your long-term goals, I mean, I guess firstly, do you feel now that you're properly sort of consolidated your place? Do you feel you're really part of this team now?
I think I felt like that for a while, to be honest. Yeah, I think I'm backed by the coach and the management quite a bit, which is a nice thing. But in saying that, international cricket, it's something that I think we were speaking about in the change room the other day. You can have a good innings, and 3 or 4 games later, if you don't put in another performance, doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how long you've been around, you're going to find yourself under a little bit of pressure. So, yeah, definitely feel like I'm getting to a point where I'm a lot more comfortable. But it's certainly not a case of you're in now for good. It's still about making sure that you try and put performances together and keep contributing.
Sure. And I guess, again, sort of throwing things forward, would you, is there a long-term aspiration to kind of climb up batting order, maybe, by a place or two, or is that not sort of part of your thinking right now?
Definitely. I think domestically at least I'm someone who likes batting a lot of time and scoring hundreds and scoring big runs. So I definitely like to get to a point in my Test career where I'm playing more of a batting role, where I'm expected to get big hundreds. I think obviously where I'm batting now, you can still make really big impacts into the game, but I think it's not always that your number 9, 10, and 11 are going to stick around with you for long periods of time, and you aren't always going to get the chance to score big runs that I feel like I'm capable of doing at this level. So yeah, it's definitely something, I wouldn't say in the near future, but definitely something further down the line in my career that I'd like to potentially be batting in the top 4 or 5. Whether that's with the gloves or not, I'm not too sure, but it's definitely something that I'd like to push towards.
Sure. And the other thing I noticed, just looking at your sort of stats at the moment, and granted you haven't sort of played a lot of Test cricket, is that your record actually away from home is much better than your Test record at home. I mean, granted, a lot of those tests were against India, but do you feel that maybe your game is kind of suited a lot more sometimes to kind of away conditions of this?
No, not really. I think if I'm being completely honest, I think like you mentioned there, I could be wrong, but I think I've played 6 Test matches at home or something like that, and 4 of them have been against the best team of our generation, if you want to call it that, on probably the toughest wickets that South Africa's ever seen against one of the best seam attacks in the world. So I feel very comfortable at home, and I think I'd probably get the best out of myself at home. I think it's just a case of there hasn't really been that opportunity to do that yet. And yeah, I've played, what's it, 70% of my test career has been all test matches away from home. So hopefully, as we start playing more in the home summer now, hopefully my record at home will improve.
Sure. And then, yeah, last kind of couple of questions, I guess. Again, throwing things forward, there is, of course, the World Test Championship final taking place at Lord's next summer in England. I know you're going to say you guys take one game at a time. Totally appreciate that. But surely you must realise that, you guys now have got a better than decent chance of making that final. I mean, is that something that kind of excites you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a secret. We speak about it in the change room all the time. We want to play in that final and win the Test Championship. Yeah, I know, like you said, it's a cliche to say you take one game at a time, but in reality, we know exactly what we need to do. And whilst we're staying focused on what we have to do, I think we're all looking ahead to that. And yeah, that's definitely the target. I think if we don't want to say if we don't get there, we won't be happy. Obviously, there's processes and things that we need to follow. But I think if we do get to that final, it won't be something that we weren't sort of expecting. It'll be sort of a goal achieved and something that we set out to do. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're putting a lot of emphasis on, and hopefully we can continue to do what we're doing, because I think we're on the right track to get there now.
Sure. And then I guess last kind of question around your very short stint at Nottinghamshire. I think it was just the 3 sort of red ball games you ended up playing there, but you still had a big impact in terms of making sure that Notts avoided relegation. Yeah, just how was your sort of experience with county cricket with Notts, and is it something that you'd like to experience more of going forward?
Yeah, I loved it. It was a bit back and forth. We had ODI series and stuff in between, so it wasn't as long of a stay as I would have liked it to have been, but it was a really great experience for me. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I think for my game and where I can improve and where I've worked with coaches on improving, I think county cricket is probably the perfect cricket to be playing to sort of grow my game in the way that I wanted to grow. So yeah, I definitely got a lot out of the 3 games that I was there. I'm working on potentially going back next year. So yeah, hopefully everything works out well for that. But yeah, I think it's, from my side, it's such a great learning experience. But just from a cricketing point of view, things get done a lot differently all around the world. So yeah, being able to experience another different sort of system and way of playing has been really beneficial. Yeah, like I said, hopefully I can go back and do that a bit more.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Carl.
Cool. Lovely.
Awesome.
Not long at all.